So today is yet another day in the Where is Joe Biden saga. This has been something we've talked about on this channel for days now, and so has much of the internet. If you go on Twitter pretty regularly, where is Joe or where is Joe Biden is often among the trending topics, and with good reason. Biden is running for president. Many have coronated him as the Democratic nominee, even though the contest isn't over. And it's bad enough that he's invisible during normal times. But during this week, which is a crisis-ridden week for America and the world, Joe Biden hiding away in his house in Delaware is inexcusable. And people, rightfully so, are asking, where is Joe? Where is Joe Biden to provide alternative leadership to the current president that in so many ways has failed the people when it comes to navigating them through this particular crisis? And he's nowhere. And you've seen all sorts of excuses. But one of those excuses, which was reported on today by ABC, you won't believe until I tell you. If you read the article, it says, quote, "A source with knowledge of the campaign said Biden's team is working on scaling up that infrastructure and dealing with the reality of Biden's Wilmington home, like the fact that there aren't particularly high ceilings, which can make lighting a challenge. And despite multiple attempts to gain more clarity into the candidate's plans, the campaign did not provide any detailed information on any upcoming events or the day-to-day activities of the former vice president." So what you're hearing there, guys, is that Joe Biden isn't doing more campaign events, outreach to voters, outreach to volunteers, outreach to the people, because of his house's lighting. That he's not doing more live streams, guys. He's not doing more events because the lighting in his house is bad. Does anybody believe that? Do any of the people watching this video believe that? If you do, please leave a comment in the description. I'd love to read your mind to see how you could believe that. No reasonable person will believe that Joe Biden isn't doing campaign outreach because of lighting. Joe Biden isn't doing outreach because of his cognitive decline, his dementia, his Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. And Joe Biden isn't doing outreach because, as I've noted before, this particular crisis has exposed the fact that his belief in employment-linked private insurance has been exposed as utterly incompatible with the world Americans now live in. And conversely, it's proven basically everything Bernie Sanders has said, Joe Biden's opponent, Bernie Sanders, 100% correct, especially when it applies to healthcare, but many of the other policies Bernie Sanders supports as well. And so Joe Biden knows that if he hides away, it's harder for him to lose support for the Democratic nomination, even if the cost to that is weaker support in the general election. Put another way, Biden is willing to sacrifice his chances of defeating Donald Trump in November for his chances of maintaining his lead over Bernie Sanders in the Democratic nomination right now. It is not about lighting whatsoever. First of all, Biden did an event from his home last week, and the event was a failure. It showed Biden basically not realizing that he had to leave the camera. His wife basically had to rush him off screen like a lost puppy. But the quality of the picture wasn't all that bad, and people in this moment especially would understand if your ability to reach them technologically didn't always look as polished as traditional broadcast media, because we're all trying to do what we can given the parameters of the crisis. People would understand. I really do feel that, especially in the immediate term. So Joe could just set up any laptop, any smartphone, any means of connecting to the internet and reach millions of people right now if he wanted to. And those people would appreciate the effort, even if the technology wasn't always as perfect as he would like. And here's another piece of evidence which I feel strikes at the core of Joe Biden's latest excuse. We know Bernie Sanders, just as old as Joe Biden, a little bit older, has been utilizing the internet for months effectively in terms of reaching people of all backgrounds, but especially young people. And during this crisis, Bernie has only ramped up those efforts. He's done a lot of that from his home in Vermont. Bernie's home is far more humble than Joe Biden's home. Bernie's home is less designed to hold large gatherings or potential press conferences vis-a-vis Joe Biden's home. Bernie's home is like a regular person's home. Biden lives in a home that's clearly designed for the 1%. So anything Bernie could do, Joe Biden could do at least as well, given equal parameters. But if you look at one of Bernie's recent events, which he did in his living room out of the principle of self-isolation, yet allowing him to reach hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, he basically sat on a chair with one of his campaign staffers to read him questions and help moderate the discussion. And you can look at this picture and see that the lighting is basically just the lights from the room with some regular ceramic lamps sitting on the floor. I'm not exaggerating. You see the picture, providing some of the more ambient lighting. This is a setup that a novice YouTuber with like 300 subscribers could do in a regular working class home or small apartment. That's what Bernie did. It looked fine. He reached hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and he proved that he was there for them in a moment of crisis. If Bernie can do that, so can Joe Biden. Joe Biden is hiding from you. He's hiding from the people. He's hiding from his responsibilities. He's hiding from the challenges that face him as a candidate and a potential president. Don't believe his excuses. Don't tolerate them. Tell him and tell Biden supporters that if you're not there for us now, you are in no way applicable to serve as our nominee versus Donald Trump. And let people know that as long as Biden is failing in this duty, the only responsible choice is to make Bernie Sanders the nominee, and there's still time to do so.